Help Save Our World Speak 70, the stages of the transition. How do we make the transition safely without falling back into our old habits? Hello and welcome to our 70th Help Save Our World Speak online speakers meeting, where we are changing the conversation to change your life and to help save our world. I'm Denis, your host, guide, and facilitator of this life and world transforming journey and conversation based on my book, Beyond the Age of Ignorance, The Quest for the Truth, Change and Transformation, which is designed to empower you to change your life and to help save our world through this process. Let's begin with introductions. Alex?
Hi, I'm Alex. I'm based here in South Africa. My purpose is to help change the conversation and help teach people how to reconnect back with nature.
Wonderful, Alex. Brendan?
Hi, I'm Brendan. My purpose is to help create sustainable eco-villages and help people get back not only to nature, but back to one another in terms of love and self-sustaining relationships.
Excellent, Brendan. Yes, this whole thing is all really about love and about those relationships, reconnecting with everything. So last week, we discussed stages of the transition. This whole journey is a transition from one state to another. It's from deficiency to abundance, from darkness to light. It's a journey from inequality to fair share. It's a journey from lack of plenty, lack of truth, lack of knowledge, lack of wisdom, awareness, consciousness, lack of love and balance and harmony, etc. It's all of that lack to a positive state of plenty for all, wisdom and enlightenment. And of course, it's like this whole thing happens really on a progressive scale. We don't know, and then we journey towards awareness, awakening, consciousness, and eventually to enlightenment. It's like this gradient of getting better and better and better. It's improving your health, going through all of the different stages of improving your health. It's a journey from where you're at to what you can become. Now, how do we make those steps safely is a very big question. Safety comes from being constantly vigilant and living with a healthy skepticism and responsibility, taking responsibility all the time. As we progressively move from irresponsible to responsible, with fewer and fewer compromises, creating greater and greater health, happiness, and well-being, at the same time, we're striving for more positivity, more love, and balance and harmony. Positivity is akin to constructive creativity. Let me say that again. Positivity is akin to constructive creativity, and negativity is a one-way ticket to the bottom and the destruction of everything. Said another way, positivity is akin to creation, and negativity is akin to destruction. Constantly being present in the moment and reevaluating our thoughts, choices, and actions is where we improve our choices and our behaviors, where we constantly check in or check up on ourselves and the things we think, say, and do. Because it's so easy to slide back into our bad habits. It's like, I stopped drinking coffee with milk and 3 sugars, and I'm drinking black coffee now. And all of a sudden it's like, oh, this would taste better with just like maybe 1 sugar, and then 2 and 3, and then boom, you're back to where you started. And you've lost the health benefits that you were trying to achieve. So growing new love-based neurological connections we practice them to make them more permanent. So the more you practice being loving and kind and saying positive things and positive jokes and whatever, the greater the progression of those neurological networks and the establishment of them. And what happens is if you slide back, those connections break up, and then you start to make those negative connections again, which are really well established in your mind. So to create this whole new brain and body and neurological connections and your body-mind connections, it has to become a way of life that you practice constantly. Holding our external world accountable, we constantly check in on corporations and businesses and choices and lies in their marketing by reading their labels and knowing what deceptive words are and the meanings behind those actual words, because they often change the way they say something to deceive you. Underneath the marketing lies, we have to look, we have to search carefully to make sure that we're not being deceived. Learning about their business practices, abuses of nature, deforestation, monoculture practices, pollution, labor practices, warring, subjugation, enslavement, mining, like huge, just destructive mining practices, farming practices, and so on. Because as consumers, we are as responsible as the corporations we support by buying from them. We have to be strong and make the best choices we can in the moment, with our immediate survival and long-term future constantly in mind, remembering the transition is a journey, and this is not an excuse or an easy way out. By constantly reevaluating as the situations change, we make better and more responsible choices with our future in mind. Now, that's a really important thing, bearing our future in mind. On our journey, we are transitioning from dependence to independence, which is a journey of change. As Kurt said last week, we have to be very careful of compromises because we can quickly end up in a destructive cycle, in the same destructive cycle that we are trying to escape from. Sliding backwards from accountability and responsibility happens before you know it. And it happens with a compromise here and a compromise there, just a little bit, whatever, as I said, with the sugar. Although to create any form of change, we must also, because of our situation that we're in at the moment, also learn to be flexible enough to adapt to the situation we're in and use what is available to us within careful reasoning to get us to where we want to go. Now, I use money for an example. There, compromises can happen on all sorts of levels, but let's use money. A moneyless giving and receiving future is our ideal we are thriving for and moving towards. That future functions just like the rest of nature and the universe does without money. Now, we know that money is just a believed abstract representation of natural energy that by design perpetuates the ownership-taking, monopolistic, abstract paradigm on which segregation, separation, status, hierarchy, and pyramid schemes stand. And we know our ideals of decentralization, local community, nature, ecology, eco-villages, and people empowerment stands on living within localized natural wealth, which is not being extracted and centralized for the rich and powerful elsewhere. So money with strings attached is a problem, like getting a philanthropist who wants to promote his products or something. And money in the long term is also a problem from which we must ultimately rid humanity. However, in our capitalistic technological age, little to nothing happens without money. So in the short term, in this paradigm, which we are transitioning away from, it's necessary to use it as a tool to get to where we want to go. So for now, using money and technology to change paradigms is essential for a speedy and efficient and effective process of change. Now, we also know that change can happen in many ways, like has often been used by the powerful. The warring, the killing, the destroying, the political force used to manipulate governments, and cultural infiltration with movies and with imperialism to replace one paradigm with another. However, that method has only ever benefited the rich imperialists and the pyramid schemes, and it has never worked for the benefit of the people throughout modern history. We now know that the only and the most effective way to achieve permanent change is to use non-violent appeal to humanity, to people, to rethink and their willingness to take responsibility for their lives and embrace their personal journey of changing themselves willingly. And to do this in the short term, we need to selectively and carefully choose to use the systems that are available to us already and are in place responsibly to achieve what we're trying to achieve as soon as possible. Without technology, we wouldn't be having this meeting, and that requires money. Without marketing and distribution of these videos, we would not succeed. Without money to buy the land and move out onto the land, we have no chance of success. We have to use metaphorical bridges to the future, like using money and technology to get where we want to go. To start with, we use money to get the land, sow, grow, design, build the catchment dams, and create the future we want. When it is established, we don't need money or destructive technology anymore, because then we're into the maintenance cycle where we don't need as much of sort of bulldozers to build catchment dams and so on. We must, however, never lose sight of our vision, goals, purpose, and values on the journey to get there. It's so important that those are like our guiding light, you know, that's what we must be focusing on. If we're not moving towards our vision or achieving the goals on the way and are within our purpose, then we've lost our way. We must always bear the pitfalls and the money traps in mind that can lead us astray. So when we're offered money, we're like, okay, yes, that's very nice of you, but what are the terms in which you are offering it? We must never allow ourselves to be conned into selling out on our vision and our values and beliefs for short-term money. The moment we've done that, that's our compromise. We've lost our way. I know that the money deck is stacked against us, achieving what we want to achieve, and corporate interests are often not compatible with our own. So the journey has to be traveled mindfully and carefully, watching our every step and adapting and changing along the way. As I'm saying, like, we use the money, but then once we've got ourselves established, we avoid the money and then begin to live in living systems as connected ecosystems. So it's a journey from a money society to a no money society. And it is that transition which we're going through, but we have to constantly maintain focus on our vision and purpose and try not to compromise ourselves along the way. It's like, I'm stopping smoking. Bam, that's your decision, and it's hard and fast. And all you need to do is just to say, your friends go out with your friends and say, oh, just go on, have one drag. Boom. and you've compromised yourself, and boom, you're smoking again full time. It'll be like doop, 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 couple of steps, and you're back into the bad habits. The whole thing is to be hard and fast on the things that you can be hard and fast on, but the things where we ultimately like have no choice right now, unless we like wiped out all of humanity and said, okay, let's start again, you know, and start and do it right from the beginning. But we can't do that. So ours is a very careful and mindful journey that we have to be on. So, okay, open to the floor. Anybody can talk. What do you think?
I think that's a brilliant concept. The fact that we need money to get the startup, but we don't need it to maintain ourselves, is a brilliant aspect. Because then if they try and use, for example, if the government lends us money to start up and we then start up, use it, and then become self-sustaining, then we can basically, if they start implementing rules and stuff, we can tell them, listen, we're not interested, and we can leave. Or they can leave, sorry, should I say. And yeah, that way we're not affected by the, say in air quotations, ruling party of the world. And we can actually start the movement properly and get ourselves to where we need to be.
Yeah, there's a whole lot of choices that can be made there. You know, it's like you might find farmers who have land who just need somebody to join them to take them in the right direction. So it doesn't necessarily have to be sort of like a huge big capital investment from somebody, but the use of capital to get everything up and going are things that are, yeah, it's just vigilant, like very careful at paying attention to what are the possibilities and what will the possibilities cost us, you know, but we cannot let it compromise our fundamental concept of moving towards a better world. Alex?
Yeah, I agree. The few things that I wanted to mention there were, one, that you mentioned how, you know, we need to change to a more positive outlook. And I mean, we've done some research on what positivity can do to the makeup of our own physical being and the water particles that we're made up of. And I mean, if we could do a worldwide positivity change, can you imagine the fabric of our reality would change in the most amazing way, overnight. You know, another aspect that I wanted to point out there is when you say, okay, we need to be very careful of like the steps that we take and the decisions that we make through the transition, as well as through the maintenance stage and into the future. Innocent mistakes can cause huge breakdown in everything. We need a team of people to, okay, we're going to make this decision. What does this decision mean for the group, for the system, for our belief system? Because the most innocent mistake, and we could literally go into it thinking, that's a great idea, it's great, it's positive, and we don't understand or notice the repercussions later down the line. So we need consultation on decisions we make as well, and bringing more people into the mix, gives that diversity of thought. So yeah, that's pretty helpful.
Yeah, I like that concept. As I'm like going through and I'm like looking at somebody says a word and it's like, oh, there's something wrong with that. I sense it immediately because I have this like whole big picture in my mind, but I want to be around forever, you know. So that's why it's so important for everyone to go through every single step of this journey and really like understand what I've been putting together for all these years, because it's all of these like random thoughts like, oh my gosh, we can't do that because, you know, that will result in that. And These are maybe compromises that we can make, and these are ones that we should avoid. And maybe they compromise, short-term compromises for a long-term future. It's like so many of those decisions I've been researching and going through again and again and again. I'll discuss these later because it gets into a whole new area. But it's critical that, like you say, it's a lot better if you've got 5 or 10 or 12 minds or 20 or whoever, a group of people who sit down and say, okay, this has these possible downsides and these possible upsides. So how will it affect our final goal, and how far are we willing to, compromise? Because ultimately it is in the area of compromise, because we know we want to move away from money. It's like we want to live in a healthy, abundant living system that supports all of our lives without dirtying our hands with things that are going to destroy us. And if it is like those Amazonians in the forest, it's like I think Bill Mollison and Jeff Lawton or whatever were there, and they were the clear cutters were coming in and saying, okay, well, we will clear cut your land and take all of the trees, and we'll pay you a lot of money. You can have cars and you can have houses and you can live like a wealthy life, and we'll sell the wood and whatever, and so we all win, and we'll put in roads and everything for you, so everything will be great. And so some of the uninformed Amazonians would say, okay, well, yeah, that sounds great. They have their Indaba, their meeting, and they're like, wow, we're all going to have houses and 4x4s and everything's going to be great. And then the thing is once their wood and the life on their land is gone, they now are left with dead land or relatively dead land that cannot give them anything as a continuous supply of food and whatever like it used to. And the 4x4s and the houses don't last for long. In that environment, technology has to be maintained with more and more and more money. And if you don't have the money coming as a constant thing, then of course all of that is gone within a very short period of time. Maybe 10 years for the vehicle or 15 years for the vehicle, if you're lucky. Under those conditions, maybe 2 or 3 or 4 years. And then the house under those conditions will last maybe 20 years or 30 years, and then it's gone. So they've lost the life on their land, and there's all of these roads that have been put in to extract the wood, and now it's easy for the hunters and the extractors to come in and steal whatever they want because there's all these roads. So it's become like an extraction system for anybody who wants to take. So they've lost their livelihoods in no time whatsoever. But then Bill Mollison and then said, okay, well, if we take one or like a few trees over this huge acreage that you've got, and we sell it to the people who make musical instruments, and we can get a really good price for the wood, and you're only taking out a few every so often, and you're constantly replanting, so your forest will never actually be destroyed, and yet you're making the money that you need for feeding yourself, educating your children, doing whatever you want to, and changing your life, but still not destroying the goose that lays the golden egg. So I agree with you. Consulting one another is a great idea. So any comments about that?
I absolutely agree. That's a perfect analogy of what I meant.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So go on to the next section. 2 points that I omitted in my review of the chapters completed so far were, I stopped and I was like, oh my gosh, in this chapter. And I said, wow, this is all about responsibility and purpose. My greatest epiphany of this chapter happened when I was looking back at the changes. I had undergone so far. And it suddenly became apparent to me that my quest had always been about learning to behave responsibly. And going back to the trees, that's exactly it, behaving responsibly, as opposed to just grab the money and run. Then the purpose to me was an airy and profound realization, realizing how many of our life's experiences had led me inexorably to this point in my life, seeing how it had manifested in my writing and how it was leading me to the future that I had decided on in the past. I was being guided, and I was creating the future for myself and others as long as I continued to live my life by my intuition, truth, and wisdom I was uncovering and my intuitive guidance. I was learning as I journeyed, painting a picture, drawing a map, creating a guidebook, creating an organization, and designing how to get there in this book, Beyond the Age of Ignorance, and everything else, all of the other books and everything else. I was creating these mind maps. It was all just magically revealing itself to me as and when I needed it. It's not preordained. It's not like your life is like decided before you start and that's the life you're going to live, because there is choice. It can be chosen and lived, but just as easily it can be ignored and an alternative choice made or choices made in the moment, thus manifesting a totally different future. But I think because I was always holding on to that help save our world vision, that love in my heart, the desire to live a better life and to create a better future for everyone, it's like my guiding light. It's just the shining star in front of me or sun in front of me, and I'm always going inexorably for it. All right, comments? Alex?
No, I absolutely agree. I don't have a comment on that.
Okay. Now let's consider the light metaphor of our journey towards enlightenment throughout this thought journey in this book. Through the chapters from infrared to red to orange to blue, green, indigo, from victims of the unknown to master guides and teachers of humanity's future. I hope you've noticed the light metaphor. Infrared is the unseen, experienced as intuitively guiding energy, feelings, as a knowingness that something was wrong, and yet you were unaware and unsure of what it was. That's the state you were in before and in the beginning of your light journey of discovery. The human eye cannot see infrared light unless it is very hot. At lower intensities, it is usually scientifically detected by heat sensors, as in your house alarms or with infrared vision goggles for looking for people, because we do radiate heat outward all the time. So that's the only way it would be detected with the human eye. Although from a simplified scientific perspective, it is just a lower frequency of radiation or vibrations energy of the electromagnetic medium of space that travels through space just as light does at the speed of light, as do the colors of the visible light spectrum. As you continued on your quest for the truth, change, and transformation, you traveled through the 7 visible light chapters of awakening, questioning, discovery, gaining knowledge, awareness, and wisdom, as you changed and transformed your life, progressing through the visible light spectrum, red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, and violet. And your transition within your worldly physical experience, you awaken, become more aware, consciously connected, and enlightened in all of the colors that made up white light. So it's like you're stepping from the darkness, a lack of light, through this process of gaining light, and gaining enlightenment, and can be seen as a progression from the darkness into the light. Throughout this journey, you're becoming more aware of the truth, seeing more with awakening and enlightened eyes. As we travel through and reveal the darkness of ignorance, biased ideas, abstract ideas, misguidance, lies, and deception that you had been subjected to, all the while you have been becoming more aware and awakened. So it's really important to see the darkness, to be able to see the light. You have constantly been reminded of all of the lies and deceptions. So now you can clearly see that you have been realizing that you were brainwashed to believe you lived in a solid matter, material world. But now you know that you're living in a vibrating, energy, moving, changing, pattern-forming, connected world all along. That's who we are. That's what we are. Although we've been told that we live in a material world, and it's not true, in a solid material world. At a subatomic level, that's untrue. So then the next stage, which we're moving into, is ultraviolet. And that is the metaphysical and a continuation of this. Does anyone have anything to say about the journey from the darkness into the light?
No, it's all perfect.
We are now moving on to our final chapter, ultraviolet, which is beyond the visible light spectrum. There's something else out there. What is it? What is that intangible, non-material, non-visible factor that we all know exists in so many different ways, and we live with every day, but it's just like we can't see it. And that is what puts it into this area of, is it true or is it woo-woo? The unseen conscious energy universe deals with the conscious energy of our reality, our world, galaxy, and universe. These unseen factors have been referred to as non-material, non-physical, or the metaphysical, beyond the actual physical world. We might think of this factor or these factors as the difference between what we call living and dead things. That quality, controlling energy, which disappears when we die. Some call it consciousness. It's held in us during life by our desire to live life and released when we decide to let go or are forced to let go by extreme trauma. Some say that the fifth dimension of the universe is consciousness. Think of this as the 3 dimensions of space, the 4th dimension of time, and the 5th dimension of consciousness. That factor, unbeknown to you, has been the essential factor, which has been the controlling factor that's been making your life's journey possible throughout your magical life's journey. Then making your life happen throughout this journey of awakening and becoming more aware and conscious and enlightened. That's the magic of positive, living, life creating consciousness. This non-physical, non-visible energy realm was previously thought of as mystical, ethereal, or woo-woo, the unknown domain of religions that you, the average person, could never understand or know. This is untrue. It is who you are, and our world and universe is. It is an aspect of the nature of existence. Religions took ownership and monopolized the metaphysical realm as their domain of power and control over humanity, keeping them in the dark and blindly believing and controlling the way people think and live in the world. By controlling the paradigm, they control the world. This is like the most fundamental reason why our world is in so much trouble. They used ethereal words like spirit and soul and higher power and divinity, thus disempowering us humans and empowering their institutionalized religions to keep the average person in the dark, believing, uninformed people living in fear and ignorance. But there is nothing mysterious about that ethereal realm. There's nothing ethereal about it. It's reality. It's like, this is the world we live in. It's a genuine and essential aspect of your life and existence that you must learn to use, learn from, and improve your skillful use of, and learn to master working with it, because it is what you are. No matter how much you try to ignore it, it is fundamental to your life. We know it exists, but we've been brainwashed out of living it towards a materialistic, objective worldview. Religions have also indoctrinated us to give away our natural energy communications and control over our consciousness powers, giving them away to the religious leaders who profess to have exclusive rights to the other side, manipulating us because they profess to know how to do everything to improve our life after death. So we must do as they say. This is a form of psychological and metaphysical enslavement based on fear, blind belief, and ignorance, which is imposed upon us by some religions. Like most people, you can function as a whole, consciously connected human being to all the invisible consciousness of nature and the universe, which is available to you and available to all of us. If you are open-minded and willing to practice the skills you need until you are a fully consciously connected energy being who has become a master of your own consciousness and life, positive consciousness and creative consciousness, and living to the best of your conscious potential, no religion or other person has the right to intervene in your connectivity with the conscious universe. You are intimately connected to, nor monopolize your intuitive connectivity to nature and the universe. Those are part of your basic human rights, or the basic rights of any living being is our immediate access to our ecosystems and all living systems. So take back your powers by practicing the art and skills of living your whole intuitive, consciousness, connected, enlightened, and wise, empowered life. Anybody?
No, all good this side?
Well, you're going to have to talk, because for some reason or other, whatever I had written underneath this is gone.
I've got nothing to add from my side. I think that was brilliant what you said, though.
Thank you.
Being conscious about what you're doing is a big factor in anybody's life. And I don't know how to put it, but basically what you think about is what you will achieve. What you put out there is what you will achieve. What you will strive and find will happen if you think it can happen.
I agree 100%. You know, it's like me looking back at my book afterwards and like, oh my gosh, it's like just the core nature of my being and what I've been trying to achieve has led me to where I am. All right, so I can continue. That's awesome stuff, Brennan. And it's so much more, you know, it's like really, if you think about it, it's like, if you're positive every day, your life ends up being like incredibly positive and creative. If you're negative every day, the spiral downward and the destruction of your life, it happens. It's just like, boom. But really, it's your consciousness, which is that elusive factor that, when somebody is like, the moment they give up on life, they're dead. So they've lost this controlling energy, which has made their whole body grow and live, and how they lived their lives, what the choices they made, food they ate, everything was happening in your consciousness. It was like, oh, I really need to eat some healthy food. And then you ate the healthy food and it improved your body. But all of your biological systems were like this incredible pattern of energy that has been progressively growing your whole life, controlled by your consciousness, your conscious desire for life. It's like you are the creator of your own existence. All right. And the moment you say, okay, I don't want to be part of this, and you commit suicide or whatever, you just say, or whatever, you do something to harm yourself, at that instant where it's not viable to continue, and you've said, okay, I don't want to do this anymore, your consciousness leaves your body, and your body then starts to degenerate. It goes into rigor mortis. It stops moving, all right, becomes inflexible, and it starts to degenerate. So that is the elusive factor, that magical quality that is your life. But the thing is you can take that magical quality and you can turn it into this incredible, loving, amazing energy, and positive and creative, and like, I can do, and we can have this incredible life. But of course, you have to work on it. It's like this, this choice to make your life into the magic you want it to be, or just exist through your life. So mastering your consciousness is like the most important thing that you can do. But consciousness is connected in so many other ways. And we'll get into each one of those things as we go. Alex?
I absolutely agree. I just want to elaborate there in terms of it's so important to understand that you're explaining about your own personal conscious being there, but that doesn't take away from the fact that as conscious beings, we decided before we even entered this body who our parents were going to be, what the structure of our life was going to be, our basic journey. That doesn't take away our free will on that journey. I mean, we totally have the right to choose our paths and go from there, but our basic roadmaps of where we could end up if we took each forks down these roads has been kind of like laid out for us in advance to our being here on earth. And it's important to understand that we've also got this constant conscious guiding force driving to keep us on the paths that we need to be on to complete our journeys, to evolve, to learn, to grow within our conscious beings on this planet, and grow from there and learn and become connected and become knowing and understanding and loving and kind and creative, and just be the awesome beings that we need to be. So there is this consciousness that's outside of us, our guiding force, our consciousness inside our own personal being, our own thought provoking, free will, learning, structured, changing being, as well as the consciousness in every single living thing around us, from the ants to the trees to the bones and the matter and the dead branches, or what we perceive to be dead branches, all the consciousness within those beings being around us and being part of the worldly consciousness that we exist on a day to day. So, I mean, it's a broader consciousness than just us and our physical, oh, I think, I talk, I am amazing human being, and nothing else on this planet is as amazing as me because I have consciousness and nothing else does. That's pretty much what I was trying to get to there in my elaboration.
All right, that's awesome stuff. I love those concepts. Like the first one that is like, it's pretty scary. I was having this argument with a friend of mine and saying, you know, every being has consciousness, you know, even ants and trees and the planet and everything. And he's like, oh no, the dictionary definition says consciousness is only what humans have. And it's like, oh my gosh. And I'm going to the dictionary, and the dictionary is quite clear on consciousness is only a human quality. And it's like, no, I don't agree with you. So just because it's defined in a book doesn't necessarily mean it's true. Now, that's the first thing. And then the other concept of consciousness, which you brought up, is that it's everywhere around us. And it is like our guiding light and our guiding code that always leads us back to what we're teaching really here, to live in love, balance, and harmony with nature and the world, existence and our planet and everything. It's like this guiding light of the creative force of the universe. And it is basically consciousness. Now, the thing about that is that there are many, many different forms. We have guides and ancestors and energy beings or entities that we don't know personally, but come and intervene in our lives and affect us and try to guide us in the best life we can live, and ultimately leading us back into alignment with the flow, which we've spoken about before, of nature and of life and of Mother Earth, this incredible flow of energy. So there are many of these different aspects, and babies and wild animals, they've just got it, you know, they're like, okay, you know, we live within this conscious living world and existence, and we just have to live our lives naturally and everything is cool. Then something goes wrong and we lose our way as humans. There's this quote by Mark Twain: "The two most important days of your life are the day you were born and the day you find out why." So, okay, the day you were born, it's like really important because you wouldn't exist, you know, if it wasn't for that. And the day you find out why is like he's bringing out the concept of, oh, I discover my purpose. And my purpose is, in this case, to help save our world by, you know, teaching others to do so. But I would say the two most important days of your life are your two awakenings. The first one is the day you were born from your mother's womb into this world and began awakening to living life in this world. The second is after years of being schooled and indoctrinated and domesticated into subservience and service to this fear and hate-based unsustainable paradigm of ignorance and way of life. One day something happens to you. It could be a near-death experience or a divorce, or something extreme happens to you. Or maybe you just awaken to that inner voice that you were speaking about, that's saying to you, hey, you've got to change, you've got to change. And nature's calling you. One day something happens to you and you suddenly flick the switch, bam. And you choose to begin this journey of awakening. You begin refusing to accept the way things are. You choose to begin questioning everything. It is the day you decide to awaken to the truth about life in your world. This is the day you are reborn as an energy being and being your second life's journey, seeking the truth, gaining knowledge, becoming more aware, and becoming more conscious and wise and enlightened. It is the day you fully commit to your awakening. By going on this quest for the truth, change and transformation, and begin to transition yourself and your life back into alignment with that flow of the energy of life and Mother Nature. Because through this whole indoctrination thing, we've been drifting away from who and what we truly are and should be from when we were children, in alignment, living our best potential, away into the darkness. And now the only way to survive and to thrive is to come back into alignment with the light of life and become the light beings of our universe, the conscious light beings of our world and universe. So I love that concept, that concept. These are your first and second births. The second is the beginning of your personal growth journey to living your life in love, balance, and harmony with the flow of life, in alignment with the conscious, love-based, feminine, creative universe, or Mother Nature, and the wisdom and flow of the wise, creative, nurturing universe. When you begin choosing to live by the truth in service of life, choosing to be open-minded, malleable, in other words, able to change, flexible, willing to change in whatever way is necessary and possible, being willing to take responsibility for your thoughts, choices, and actions, being willing to be open-minded to what life is and how it could best be lived, planting the seeds of thought, choosing, focusing, practicing, and manifesting that new personality, that new you, and that new environment around you because of what you do. That new world is available to you. All you have to do is to flick that switch for your second rebirth and become that person. For me, my choice began before life with my choice to help save the world. I have this world-saving mission as the underlying driving theme and life's purpose throughout my life. Because way back before conception, I made a choice to intervene, to become manifest in this world, to help save our world. I have also had this repetitive dream of that choice and the journey into this world throughout my life. In outer space, as a non-physical energy consciousness, my attention was and awareness was brought to the plight of this world. I was told the world is in trouble by another energy entity or consciousness or energy being. Then with instantaneous universal knowingness, which is a state you're in before you enter this world of physical limitations, it was obvious to me to see that that planet Earth was in serious trouble, and I chose to fix it, saying, I can do it. I then focused on being born into this world. When eventually here, I focused on my chosen life's purpose and set about doing it. I'm not saying that I am the only one with this altruistic vision and purpose who has chosen a similar purpose. When you have a clear purpose and are very focused on making it happen, the conscious universe conspires to manifest it with you. In outer space, even way back then, there was a clear awareness that the world was in serious trouble and needed intervention, way before most humans were aware of the existential problems facing all life on our world. Because of course I'm a lot older than most people, and from there I could see it happening. Whereas in this life, in the beginning, I couldn't really see it. I was naturally conceived and born to nature-loving parents who lived in a natural environment in northern Rhodesia near the Congo jungle. Now, as Alex just said, this is a prime example of me choosing my parents and choosing the environment I needed to learn about to become the person I needed to become. I lived my life with an intimate connection to nature throughout most of my life. And I journeyed without a second thought I've been guided through many necessary experiences while questioning and seeking the truth and learning all of my life skills and natural wisdom and learning the reasons for the problems of our world and how to fix them. Consciously and unconsciously, I have been naturally creating this philosophy with the help and guidance of the non-physical consciousness throughout my life. Through intuition, lucid dreaming, meditative states of consciousness. Now, at this stage of my writing, this original book, and reflecting back, it is obvious to me that throughout my life, I have been experiencing and learning exactly what I needed to know to be able to follow through on my word or promise. I have been very focused on my chosen life's journey with its very specific purpose of helping save our world. I have spent my time focused on learning the lessons of life, gathering the tools, the knowledge, the skills, the wisdom, which I needed to complete my mission successfully. Any comments, Alex?
No, I absolutely agree, and I definitely think it's your life purpose, and will do whatever I can to support it and make sure that we can follow through this purpose as far as possible within our lifetimes. That is my goal, and we can only hope that we make the kind of change that we need to make in the world.
Brendan, I actually would like to actually just finish this. It's not that long.
Go for it.
The way to do it has been uncovered throughout that journey. Has become clearer that this way of life is my chosen purpose. Reaching this stage of writing this book, I suddenly stopped and realized that everything that had happened in my life was magically aligned with me achieving my purpose. And without those experiences, I would not or could not or would not have written this book or become who I am today. And all of my possible choices and possible life's experience, it is uncanny how precise my journey has been and all of the lessons were, combined with my intuitive guidance. Now, that's the other point you brought up. It's like this intuition is given to me, and most of these insights come through me. It's like the story of the genie, a man saying that one person is a genius. And then him saying, no, I'm just the genie. The genius comes through me. All right. And that is listening to that intuitive voice of Mother Nature, of these guides, and listening to it through aha moments. It's like, must write that down, and writing it down. And my dreams, I'll wake up every morning with these incredible, just about every morning with these incredible dreams and inspirational insights. And just like reevaluating my lucid dreams, or just the insights that are like held in my mind as I'm transitioning into the waking state, are the perfect things that I need to say. Like it's like these inspired lessons that I'm talking about now, they come through me. I'm just like the radio, all right? And somebody basically, I tune into different frequencies from the intuitive conscious universe, and people give me, or entities give me the wisdom and the ideas that I need to be able to write that specific thing at that time on that day. So it's not about me ultimately, it's about this conscious universe actually using me as like the facilitator to bring into the physical world to share with others. So that's such an awesome realization.
Yeah, realizing the other day that I was a facilitator too really was eye-opening.
Yeah, it's just like, wow, it's like we're not alone. We're connected to this incredibly genius universe that is like giving us what we need exactly when we need it to be able to do what we set out to do in the first place. Just incredible. It's uncanny how precise my journey has been, and all the lessons were. Combined with my intuitive guidance, my dreams, my choices, my experiences, I've been guided to achieve this through a very specific, chosen purpose. How I lived my life with a can-do approach is my life's code from before I began this journey. I can do it. It's like the first thought that came to my mind when I realized that the world is in trouble. And of course, this purpose doesn't belong to me, and can also be, you can also choose this purpose if you care about life and your children's future. Although we have been indoctrinated to believe that we live in a material world, and we all know that we have and are conscious human beings, our consciousness being non-physical, that controls our more physical living, changing bodies. We can see continuous controlled changes happening all around us as living beings. We know we live in a conscious living universe, especially if you take those slowed down time-lapse videos like the one we saw this last week. You can see this is like consciously growing plants and insects, and it's just like everything's happening. It's like this incredible living process that can only happen if there's consciousness guiding and making it possible. And because it's like this conscious process of pattern forming into physical existence and then out of physical existence. It's this incredible individual creative consciousness as well as a collective creative consciousness. We know there's a lot more to life and the universe than dead objective matter, and the material and mechanical laws of Newtonian physics, material and mechanical perceptions of nature and the universe are not true. We are expressions of a conscious living universe, and the difference we see between what we consider to be living and non-living appears to be like a rate of change and a focused intent on living and balancing and maintaining. But we could say the same about our planet and our solar system and our galaxy and universe, where the rates of change are extreme and the speed of light and the movements through space are of more physical expressions of energy, which we perceive to be stationary and material relative to us, but they're not. They are these constantly changing processes. We know that consciousness is the one non-material factor that is the controlling factor of living entities, physical and non-physical. The moment consciousness leaves our body, we cease to exist. At the moment physical bodies changes, slow down and begin to become more random as the life form begins to lose life focus, controlled functioning and purpose to live, and progressively becomes less organized and begins to degenerate and decay. That is the moment that death happens. The conscious knowledge.
You got to be careful of there's not a full energy release at that point, because the body is still full of energy, and that energy is just becoming part of the mass energy, and there's still a version of consciousness there. They say things like muscle memory, where your body actually retains memory of your existence, of your life, of your consumption, your everything that you've lived. There is an energy residue that is left behind and becomes part of the environment within it. But your actual conscious energy being, the one that is holding on to life as we know it, that is the part that is released from your body.
Yeah, it's like you spend your life creating this physical being and all of these patterns of cells and relationships between cells and And it's not as if, like, as your consciousness as an independent thought consciousness leaves and then everything just disappears. No, it doesn't. Because your physical body is there and it stops moving and rigor mortis sets in, it becomes very, hard and like a board or whatever. And so it's lost certain aspects of movement, but the movement that composes the atoms is still moving. I mean, that all spins at the speed of light. It's not changing, but the cellular combinations of patterns starts to change to becoming like less movement pretty quickly. And so, but the patterns are still there. And it's only over time of the decay of the body that those patterns start to break up and break up and break up and decay. But there's certain patterns like your bones and skulls, which are pretty hardy and could survive like immense periods of time. But ultimately, in most cases, where they don't end up in rock and sand, become petrified as fossils, they do degenerate. And basically, your energy that you've been accumulating throughout your life is returned to the energy of life and becomes part of other forming living beings. Other consciousnesses take it on as the nutrients and the minerals and the but we think of nutrients of minerals, it's really like it's the energy of those atoms break down to that level of substances and atoms and then become part of other living systems. So I was listening to one of the great Indian philosophers, and she's can't think of her name right now, but she was saying we're all food. So we come from food, we eat food, we grow into beings, and then we become food. So it's realizing that we're part of this greater process of life as well. So let me just carry on here. Consciousness, knowledge, and wisdom of the realm we cannot sense with our five senses: sight, hearing, taste, smell, and touch. Our sixth sense is our intuitive sense, which we experience through our crown chakra. That is the sense that I talk about when we connect to these non-physical entities. Although we have many other ways of sensing, there are some 33 scientifically proved ways of sensing, like sense of balance and so on. However, there are many unscientifically named ways of sensing our energy and environment, nature and the universe. Our only limitations are our openness to it. Right through my quest for the truth, change, and transformation, I have been guided through intuition, dreams, aha moments, receiving what I needed to know and say precisely when I needed it. So it's like we think of ourselves as individual energy consciousnesses, but we are of the greater collective consciousness. We can never ultimately be separate from it. We are part of the greater whole of consciousness in the universe. Yes, I played my part with experiences, focusing in on it, bringing it into reality, writing it down and making it physical. But the magical wisdom that made this all happen was way beyond me as an individual. It has come to me through wise guides, ancestors, family who have passed on, and through inspired experiences of people around me sharing with me. My inspired creation journey is way bigger and way more important than me. Many inspirational, non-physical consciousnesses are composers of this message and the creation of so much more, which most people fear to listen to, learn from, and hear and be one with. This chapter is about opening those connections for you through your and my stories. Our stories are where this can all be revealed. And I think from next week, I would like you to prepare your stories of intuitive and magical experiences that you've had that you would like to share with us to show that this is real. All right. That's all I've got to say. So anything you want to say?
No, all good, my side.
Brendan,
All good here.
thank you. Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
See you next week.
See you next week. Cheers.
Bye.